At what point does the romantic, poetry-writing choir boy who brings his mother flowers turn into the guy orchestrating bank heists for a violent Marxist revolution?
The pivot happens when his mother's hard work pays off, and she secures him a spot at the Tiflis Theological Seminary. This was the premier educational institution in the entire Caucasus region.
So a huge deal for them.
Massive. For a poor boy from Gori, this was the ultimate ticket to upward mobility. If he graduated, he would be a priest, which meant a secure income and social standing. But the seminary, which the students bitterly dubbed the Stone Sack.
The Stone Sack. Wow.
Yeah, it was a profoundly oppressive environment.
Oppressive how? Like strictly grading their Latin homework.
Much deeper than that. It was run by Russian Orthodox priests who openly despised Georgian culture. They forbade the students from speaking their native language.
Ah, Russification in practice.
Exactly. And the daily routine was defined by strict surveillance. Monks would constantly search the students' belongings, looking for forbidden secular books. There was this pervasive culture of snitching, where students were encouraged to inform on one another to gain favor with the priests.
It was like a miniature version of the entire Russian Empire. Autocracy, Russification, and secret police just packed into a theological school.
Exactly. It was autocracy in a microcosm. And the students reacted exactly how the citizens of the wider empire were reacting. They rebelled. They smuggled in forbidden literature, Victor Hugo, Darwin, and eventually Karl Marx.
Of course.
In that environment of hypocrisy and absolute control, the young Stalin transitioned from a devout Christian studying to be a priest into a devout, uncompromising Marxist-Leninist. The seminary didn't mold him into a priest. It provided the perfect pressure cooker to forge a professional revolutionary.
And when we use the term professional revolutionary in the context of the Russian underground, we really need to clarify what that means. We are not talking about holding up protest signs in a public square or writing strongly worded op-eds.
No, definitely not.
We are talking about armed robbery. To fund Vladimir Lenin's uncompromising Bolshevik faction, Stalin engaged in kidnappings, extortion rackets, and massive violent bank robberies in the streets of the Caucasus.
And we should probably pause to explain why he was doing this specifically for Lenin's faction. By the early 1900s, the Russian Marxist movement had split. Vladimir Lenin, who was leading the movement from exile in Europe, forced a division during a party congress in 1903.
Right, the famous split.
Yeah, he demanded a party composed only of elite, hardened, professional revolutionaries, a vanguard party. The other faction, the Mensheviks, wanted a broader, more democratic, open mass party closer to Western European socialist parties.
Makes sense.
So Lenin's faction became the Bolsheviks. But running an underground network of professional revolutionaries, printing illegal newspapers, and smuggling weapons, that requires a massive amount of cash.
Enter Stalin, who essentially becomes the mob boss of the Caucasus to supply that cash.
Great.
But living that life naturally led to his arrest, over and over again. Between 1901 and 1917, he spent roughly 7 years in various prisons and in freezing, remote Siberian exile. And I think pop culture gives us this dramatic, swashbuckling idea of exile, daring escapes across the frozen tundra. What was the actual mechanism of Siberian exile like for him?
The reality was defined by extreme penury and absolute mind-numbing boredom. The Tsar state didn't always put political exiles in prison cells. They would simply banish them to a tiny, frozen village thousands of miles from civilization, surrounded by thousands of miles of nothing.
So just stuck there.
Just stuck. Stalin spent years begging friends for small amounts of money to buy basic food, nursing deep personal resentments, and waiting for a revolution that, to be frank, seemed like it might never actually come.
Right, because normally a bank-robbing poet from Georgia would just freeze to death in a Siberian village, completely forgotten by history. For Stalin to ever reach the halls of power, the entire immense structure of the Russian Empire had to completely collapse.
Yes.
And Tsar Nicholas II was about to do him the biggest favor imaginable by making a sequence of historically catastrophic decisions.